Okay, so tonight we're going deep on all things spooky. For anyone who's ever maybe watched those ghost hunting shows and
Mm.
thought, is there something more there?
Yeah.
We're going to unpack some claims about the supernatural we found, all the way from a conversation about this thing called spiritual sensitivity
Mm-hmm.
to the Japanese horror classic Ringu.
Ringu!
So yeah, buckle up because things are about to get a little bit weird.
I think what's really cool about these sources is how they blend, like, personal stories with, like, these bigger cultural ideas about the supernatural. And it's like you see how much what we believe is
Yeah.
shaped by, like, what we've lived through and what society tells us is real, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's like we've got this first idea, testing for spiritual sensitivity.
Yeah.
And if you can picture yourself falling asleep, like watching yourself in a movie nodding off,
Huh?
it means your soul is like briefly stepping outside your body.
Whoa.
I don't know about you, but that sounds more like a recipe for a neck cramp than some spiritual awakening.
Right. I mean, it's a fun thought, but if we're being, like, grounded here, it could just be, like, how our brains work.
Yeah.
Especially when we're tired. Like, we're really good at making up images and stories, even when we think we're seeing something objective.
You're telling me. I swear I once had a dream I won an Olympic medal for cheese sculpting. Does that make me, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, dairily gifted?
I wouldn't want to rule out any hidden talents or anything, but maybe cheese sculpting's best left to the waking world.
Right? Maybe you're right. Okay, so speaking of things that are maybe better left to the imagination, let's talk about Ringu. You know, the one with the creepy girl crawling out of the TV? Sadako?
Right.
It's iconic horror. But here's the thing. This movie's a box office-like monster. It's got a Guinness World Record for profitability.
Wow.
And yet, in Japan, it wasn't even considered pure horror. It's like a spooky identity crisis or something.
No. Yeah. I think this is where that whole cultural lines thing gets really interesting. Like, you see Japanese horror, it's often less about jump scares and gore, and it's more about building this slow, like, psychological tension. It's all about atmosphere and unsettling images and the things that stay with you after the lights come on.
Oh, so it's less about making you scream and more about just giving you, like, the chills.
Right.
Like, you're not worried about a monster jumping out.
Yeah.
You're worried about what might be lurking in the shadows of your own mind.
Exactly. And what's wild is that Ringu, it was actually categorized as science fiction in Japan.
Huh.
Yeah. So it kind of blurs the lines between what we think of as supernatural and then, like, what might actually have a scientific explanation, even if it's creepy.
Okay, that's really interesting. Oh, and here's another mind bender. In the original Ringu novel,
Mm-hmm.
Sadako, the ghost everyone's afraid of, she never actually appears.
Oh, wow.
It's like the ultimate horror movie tease, like the scariest thing is what you don't see.
Right. It's like a testament to the power of suggestion. The director Hideo Nakata, he took this, like, abstract conceptual thing from the book and he turned it into this terrifying visual icon. Like, he used distorted camera angles and unsettling sounds to create this dread, and it taps into our, like, primal fear of the unknown.
You know, as much as I try to avoid horror movies,
Yeah.
that image of Sadako crawling out of the well is
That's
like
forgot.
forever burned into my brain. It's just so unsettling. But you know what else is unsettling? This story from our source material about a college student who had a red-eyed neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this guy kept seeing his neighbor, but only at night, and always with her face hidden. Later, he finds out she died.
Yeah.
And wait for it, she had red eyes.
Whoa. Spooky.
It's like textbook horror. The mysterious neighbor,
Yeah.
the hidden face, and the truth revealed too late. It just plays on our anxieties about the people we live near, the secrets they might be hiding, and the idea that danger could be lurking right next door. Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, what would you do if you found out your neighbor had glowing red eyes? I think I'd be investing in some blackout curtains and maybe even like a new apartment.
Yeah. Probably smart. But speaking of things that make us question what's real, there was this other detail in the story that I thought was interesting. Do you remember how the student mentioned that his neighbor was raised by a woman because she had breasts?
Oh, yeah, that was a weird one. Like, it felt super out of place, like it was thrown in there for shock value.
Yeah, it did seem kind of random. But the source material goes on to explain that this individual was actually biologically male, but identified as female, and was raised as such.
Oh, okay. So it's like a whole other layer to the story then. But I'm still not sure how it connects to the whole red-eyed neighbor thing.
It's a good question. Like, on the surface, it seems totally unrelated. But if we kind of zoom out, we can see how it connects to a bigger theme. That runs throughout the source material. This blurring of boundaries, whether it's the line between life and death, male and female, or even what we perceive as normal versus supernatural. The source material keeps challenging, like our assumptions about things.
You're so right. It's like the source material itself is playing tricks on us, making us question what we think we know.
Exactly. And that sense of unease, that feeling of something being off, it's like a classic technique in horror. It keeps us on edge, questioning everything. And ultimately, it makes the experience so much more unsettling, kind of like Ringu now that I think about it.
Oh yeah, good connection. Speaking of Ringu, though,
Yeah.
I'm still hung up on how it's like a global horror icon,
Yeah.
but wasn't considered scary enough for Japan. It's
Yeah.
like being a world-famous chef, but your family doesn't like your cooking.
Yeah. It is a good reminder that what one culture finds terrifying, another one might find just unsettling or even funny. It all comes down to context, and how we've been conditioned to like experience and interpret horror.
So if Ringu isn't considered true horror in Japan then, what would be? Like what kind of movie would make a Japanese audience actually lose sleep?
That's a good question. It'd probably be something deeply rooted in Japanese folklore and cultural taboos, something that really taps into their collective anxieties. Maybe a film about vengeful spirits, or the consequences of breaking ancient traditions.
Ooh, now that sounds terrifying. It's like the horror comes not from jump scares or special effects, but from a deep understanding of like cultural beliefs
Mm-hmm.
and the things that truly frighten people on a societal level.
Right. It's the fear of the unknown, but also the fear of the known, the things that lurk in the shadows of our collective consciousness.
Okay, I'm officially creeped out now. Let's lighten the mood for a sec. Remember that thing about clapping to ward off evil spirits? Our source material actually goes into some detail about this, and it's pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, the palms of your hands are considered yang, and the backs of your hands are yen. So clapping with your palm together
Yeah.
is supposed to generate positive energy. That can, like, banish bad vibes.
Interesting. It is fascinating how seemingly simple actions can have such deep cultural significance, like in many cultures. Clapping is more than just making noise. It's a ritual with spiritual meaning. Like in Shintoism, for example. Clapping is used to attract the attention of deities and to purify spaces.
So it's not just about making a loud noise to scare the ghosts away. It's about creating a specific kind of energy, like
Okay.
spiritual sound therapy or something.
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting is that the source material specifically warns against clapping with the backs of your hands together in Japan.
Really?
It's considered a death clap, like something you only do at funerals.
Oh, wow. So you're telling me, like, if I accidentally did that at a wedding, that would be a major party foul.
It would be. It's a good reminder that cultural sensitivity goes beyond just language and customs. Even seemingly harmless gestures can carry deep symbolic meaning.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to be more mindful of my clapping from now on. And I'm also going to avoid any neighbors with glowing red eyes,
Yeah.
just to be safe.
Yeah, good plan. But speaking of cautionary tales, remember that spiritual sensitivity test we talked about?
Yeah.
The one where you visualize yourself falling asleep?
Oh, yeah. The one that's supposed to tell you if your soul went walkabout. I actually tried it last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how'd it go? Did you have any out-of-body adventures?
Not quite. I just laid there, focusing on my breathing, trying to picture myself drifting off, and nothing. Just my usual tossing and turning. Maybe my soul's a homebody.
Or maybe you just weren't quite in the right state of mind. These things can be elusive,
Yeah.
but like your willingness to even try it, it speaks to that human desire to explore the unknown, even if it's just within our own minds.
You know what? That's a good point. It is fun to entertain these ideas, even if we don't fully believe them. Sometimes a little mystery is good for the soul.
For sure. It keeps us curious, keeps us questioning, keeps us engaged with the world around us. And sometimes it leads to some pretty fascinating conversations.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the supernatural for now. We've covered everything from out-of-body experiences to creepy neighbors to the power of a good clap. It's been a wild ride.
It has. But before we go, I'd like to leave our listeners with a question. Why are we so drawn to these stories, these glimpses into the unknown? What do they tell us about our deepest fears and our curiosity about the world beyond what we understand?
That's a great question. And on that note, I think I'm going to go double check that all my doors are locked
Yeah.
and maybe sleep with the lights on tonight, just in case. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Yeah, it's like a classic urban legend setup, isn't it? And the ambiguity is what makes it so creepy. Like, is it a ghost? Is it a case of mistaken identity? Or just a really freaky coincidence? Our brains love to fill in the blanks, especially when it comes to danger.
Right. And it makes you wonder, what would you do if you found out your neighbor had glowing red eyes?
I don't know.
I think I'd be hitting up Amazon for some blackout curtains. And maybe Zillow for a new apartment.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But speaking of things that make us question what's real, there was this other detail in that story that kind of stuck with me. Remember how the student mentioned that his neighbor was raised by a woman because she had breasts?
Oh, yeah, that was a weird one. It felt so out of place. Like, was that really necessary?
It did seem kind of random, but the source material actually explains that the individual was biologically male, but identified as female and was raised as such.
Mm. Okay, so there's like a whole other layer to the story then.
Yeah.
But I still don't get how it connects to the whole red-eyed neighbor thing.
It's a good question. Like, on the surface, it seems totally unrelated. But if we zoom out a bit, we can see it connects to a bigger theme in the source material. This blurring of boundaries, like the lines between life and death, male and female. What we see as normal versus supernatural, it's constantly challenging our assumptions.
Oh, totally. It's like the source material itself is messing with us, making us question everything we thought we knew.
Exactly. And that feeling, like something's just slightly off, that's classic horror. It makes you question everything. And it makes the whole experience so much more unsettling. Kind of like with Ringu, now that I think about it.
Ooh, nice. Good connection. But speaking of Ringu, I can't get over how it's a global horror icon.
Yeah.
But wasn't even considered scary enough in Japan. It's like winning a Grammy, but your family hates your music.
Right. I guess it shows that what one culture finds terrifying, another might just find unsettling or even funny. It all comes down to cultural context and how we've been conditioned to experience these things.
So if Ringu isn't true horror to them, what would be? Like, what kind of movie would make a Japanese audience freak out?
That's a good question. I think it would have to be something deeply rooted in their folklore and taboos. Something that really taps into their collective anxieties. Maybe a film about vengeful spirits or breaking ancient traditions and facing the consequences.
Okay, yeah, now that sounds terrifying. It's like the real horror comes not from jump scares or anything,
Yeah.
but from understanding those deep cultural beliefs. Like the things that truly frighten people on a fundamental level.
Exactly. It's the fear of the unknown, but also the fear of the known. The things that we all kind of share in the shadows.
Okay, I'm officially creeped out now. Got to lighten the mood. Remember that thing about clapping to ward off evil spirits?
Oh, yeah.
The source material goes into some detail about it, and it's pretty wild.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so apparently the palms of your hands are considered yang, and the backs of your hands are yin. And clapping with your palms together, it generates this positive energy that can banish bad vibes.
That is interesting. Like, it's fascinating how such a simple action can have such a deep cultural meaning. In a lot of cultures, clapping is more than just making noise. It's like a ritual, like in Shintoism. Clapping is used to get the attention of deities and to purify spaces.
So it's not just about making a loud noise to scare away ghosts. It's like creating a specific kind of energy,
Exactly.
like spiritual sound therapy.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that the source material warns against clapping with the backs of your hands together in Japan.
Right.
Yeah, it's considered a death clap, like something you only do at funerals.
Oh, wow. So like if you accidentally did that at a wedding, that would be a huge party foul.
Yeah, it would be. I think it's a good reminder that cultural sensitivity goes beyond just language and customs. Even small gestures can carry a lot of meaning.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to be watching my clapping from now on. And I'm still avoiding neighbors with glowing red eyes, just to be safe.
Probably a good idea. But hey, speaking of cautionary tales, you remember that spiritual sensitivity test? The one where you try to picture yourself falling asleep?
Oh, yeah. The one that's supposed to tell you if your soul went on a little trip. I actually tried it last night.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How'd it go? Any out-of-body experiences?
Not really.
Yeah.
I just lay there, focusing on my breath, trying to picture myself drifting off. And nothing. Just the usual tossing and turning. Maybe my soul is just a homebody.
Or maybe you weren't in the right headspace. These things can be tricky. But even your willingness to try it, it says something about that human desire to explore the unknown, even if it's just inside our own minds.
You know what? That's a good point. It is fun to think about these things, even if we don't buy into them completely. I think the little mystery is good for us.
I agree. It keeps us curious, keeps us asking questions, keeps us engaged with the world, and sometimes it leads to some pretty cool conversations.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the supernatural for today. We've covered everything from out-of-body experiences to creepy neighbors to the power of clapping.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
But before we go, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. Why are we so drawn to these stories, these glimpses into the unknown? What do they tell us about our deepest fears and our curiosity about what's out there?
That's a great question. And on that note, I think I'm going to double check that my doors are locked tonight. And maybe sleep with the lights on, just in case. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. It's funny how these conversations about, like, the supernatural always seem to come back to this idea of belief. Like, do we actually buy into these stories and these claims, or do we just kind of write them off as, like, hocus pocus, you know?
Right. It is an interesting tension. On the one hand, we have this human need to explain things we don't understand, to find patterns and meaning in the chaos. But then on the other hand, there's a part of us that wants evidence. Like, we want to see proof.
Totally. It's like a part of me wants to believe in ghosts and spirits and all that, but then another part of me is like, show me the receipts. Where's the scientific data?
Yeah. And I think that's where critical thinking comes in. It's not about blindly accepting or rejecting everything we hear, but it's about approaching these ideas with a healthy amount of ice, skepticism and curiosity, asking questions, considering different perspectives,
Yeah.
and ultimately forming our own conclusions.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a good ghost story or a paranormal investigation or whatever. But we have to remember that not everything has a supernatural explanation.
Right.
Sometimes the simplest answer is the most likely one.
Exactly. And sometimes a good scare is just a good scare. Like Ringu, it's a classic for a reason, you know. It taps into something primal, something that goes beyond culture. It plays on our fear of the unknown, the unseen, the things that are hiding in the shadows.
Totally. Like Ringu might not be considered true horror in Japan, but it definitely messed with my sleep for a while. There's just something about that imagery,
Yeah.
that slow burn dread.
Yeah, it gets under your skin.
It really does.
It's a masterclass in psychological horror. The director, Hideo Nakata, he understood that true terror doesn't come from what we see, but what we imagine. He used subtle things like distorted visuals, eerie sound design, that haunting score, to create this constant feeling of unease, like something is wrong, even when nothing overtly scary is happening on screen.
Yeah. It's like he's playing with you,
Yeah.
keeping you on the edge of your seat, waiting for something to happen.
Right.
And then when it does,
Yeah.
let's just say you won't be forgetting Sadako anytime soon.
Nope. And that's the power of good horror. It sticks with you. It makes you think. It makes you question things. And it definitely makes you double check that the TV is off before bed.
For sure. I think we've officially explored all the spooky corners of this topic.
Yeah.
From out-of-body experiences to red-eyed neighbors to the cultural significance of clapping. We've covered it all.
We have. And I think the main thing to remember here is not necessarily to believe or disbelieve everything, but to just appreciate the power of these stories. They spark our curiosity, they challenge what we think we know, and they make us think about the world in new ways.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to step out of the shadows and back into the light. Until next time, of course. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive on the Deep